So far during this series, we've learned how to move two spheres from A to B across the screen. We've managed to vary the time that it takes for both spheres to move from A to B so that they can race each other. And we've also found out how to vary their speeds throughout each race so that they can accelerate and decelerate. Our next task is to create an expression to indicate the first and second positions of each sphere once the race has come to an end. And that's exactly what we're going to do now. So just to come up here for a minute, I've created a null object which I've already placed an empty Expresso expression tag on. I've also got a couple of extrudes here to contain the text for the first and second indicators for both the green and the pink. So that's what we're about here. Right, so let's get on with it. The first thing we need to get started is to get hold of our pink and green spheres, drag those in, and then we're interested in their X positions, so we come down to position, position X, position, position X, make them a little bigger so that we can see what we're doing. We then need a couple of compare nodes. So we have those there, and we can plug in our positions into the top inputs there, into input 1. We're comparing their values to being greater than 999 because obviously the spheres move across the screen from 0 to 1000 centimeters. So that's what we need to compare them to. The next nodes we need to call upon are once again freeze nodes. So we need 2 of those. And this is where we do some clever stuff. What we need to do is plug our values from each of our compares, or the outputs from each of our compares, into the values of the freeze nodes. And then we need to take those same outputs and go across to each of the others freeze nodes and plug these values into the switch. So if the green finishes first, it's going to freeze any further values coming from the pink and vice versa. And that's important because it will enable us to discover which of the two spheres has finished first. So that's what we're doing with that. Next, we need 2 condition nodes. Place those in there. And we can put our outputs into the switch for each one of those from the freeze nodes. And the condition nodes need to contain 0 and 1. They're technically a bool value. And these values are going to be passed to a second compare node. So we're going to plug those into there. And the compare nodes function needs to be set to greater than. So if the output from the green's condition is greater than the pink's, the green is the winner. If not, then obviously pink is the winner. So that's the first part of the expression complete there. Just move this up and make it a little bigger. Got to get a few more nodes in yet. The next thing we're going to place in the expression is a bool. So I'll grab one of those and we'll set its function to OR because we're interested in one or the other of these 2 outputs from the condition. So I'll plug those 2 in there. Following on from here, we need to pass the value from our compare to 2 condition nodes. So we'll get a couple of those in there. And they are there. And the value we're going to pass to the switches. So when we get a true output, we're going to switch from input 2 to input 3. and we're going to set the condition nodes up with a data type of string, because we're interested in passing words through these, not numeric values. And we're going to put in the first one here second in input 2 and first in input 3, and in our bottom condition we're going to do the direct opposite and put first in input 2 and second in input 3. So that completes that little part of it. The next thing we need to do is get another couple of conditions, so we'll just copy those two across, just bring these down, tighten them up a little bit. And these two conditions also need to be strings, but they don't actually require anything to be in them, so we'll get rid of second and first in the top one and first and second in the bottom one. And these are going to be switched this time by the bool value. So that's going to be switched there, so that the 0 or the 1 is going to switch those two there. And then we just simply need to connect the outputs from the previous conditions into the inputs 3 of the second conditions here. So when the race has ended, the bool value is going to switch these conditions to allow us to display one of the results from these conditions here, whichever that may be. Now, depending on who's won the race, green is either going to be first or second, or vice versa with the pink sphere. And that's where the switching is done for that. So in other words, these conditions are either going to pass first or second, depending on the result of the compare here. So that's how that's going to work. To actually finish off the expression, all we need to do is bring in the text splines here for each sphere. We just need to come down to object properties, text for both of them, and then plug the outputs from the conditions into the inputs of the text splines there. Now let's run this and see if we've got it right. Yes, and the green was first, and again the green's first. Oh, where are we going to go now? And the green's first again. And just again. Who's going to be first this time? It's still going to be green. Green's on a real run now at the moment. Come on, pink, you can do it. No. Oh, come on, pink, you can do it this time. Yes, you can do it. Okay, great. So everything's working fine. Now I'm just going to let this run for a moment to see if we can get a draw scenario, because if that happens, there's nothing in the expression at the moment to cater for it, so nothing whatsoever will be displayed at the end of the race. Will it happen? Will it? No. I thought we were going to get one just a minute ago, but we didn't. Let it go for a little bit longer, but I doubt we'll be lucky, but I'd just like to see if we can get one, and then demonstrate that. Will we? No, pink. Come on, guys, you can do it. Well, I'll tell you what I'll do, I'll pause it here and then let it run in the background until we do get a draw scenario. Or will we get one? No, okay, I'll just pause it there. And lo and behold, a couple of races after I paused, I finally got a draw scenario. Anyway, we now have one, and as you can see, both spheres are at the end of the race and nothing is being displayed. So as a bonus, I'm going to show you exactly what we need to do in order to deal with that situation. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just set my expression down in the window a little bit lower, move that out of the way for a minute. The next thing I need to do, I'm just going to copy one of these down here and call it draw result in there. Right, so what I need to do is, first off, I need another compare node, so I'll copy this one up here. This needs to be set in the function to equal to, and we're going to analyze the outputs of the initial conditions. So if they're both the same, that's the first thing we need to know, because in other words, if they are the same, we've got a draw. But it's not quite as simple as feeding the output from the compare to a condition. That is what's involved, but there's a little bit more to it. We'll get one of those and start that anyway, so we'll push that to there. Again, we've got a string. All I need in there is draw, exclamation mark. That'll do nicely. What I'll also do in here is just change its colour. While I think about it, let's go to basic, go into there, make it yellow, so that we've got the draw scenario catered for in colour, the same as the winning and losing, or the first and seconds. So that's the first piece of it done. The next piece is to get two balls, and they both need to be ands in the function. So they're both set up. Now, what we're looking at in this instance, for the first bool, are the outputs from the first compares. So if both spheres' x positions are greater than 999, and both the outputs of the conditions are identical to each other. So in other words, if both races are finished and both spheres are finished neck and neck, then we know that we've got a draw scenario. So we can then plug the output of both of these into this AND, because when both of these are true, we have the correct scenario for a draw. And then we can plug the output of that into the switch. We can drag in our text from the draw extrude there, and then put that in there, and it should now be displaying draw, and it is. Okay, and that's absolutely fine. And then when we reset the timeline, because we've set this condition up here with the bool, so they've both got to be at the end of the race, we'll switch that off. If we didn't put this bool in here and we went straight from the compare into the switch there, draw would be displayed all the time. We don't want that, obviously. We only want it to be displayed at the end of the race, and indeed if if there's been a draw. So that's precisely why we set the extra conditions up here. So we must be at the end of the race. There must have been a draw between the two of them. Both conditions are satisfied. Then we place draw on the screen. Otherwise, we don't place it there. Okay, so that's why that's been set up that way. Right, so let's run this again and see what happens. First and second. Yep, that's perfect. It'll be interesting to see if we do get another draw during this, but we probably won't get that lucky. But it's all working fine anyway. Will we? No. I thought we might then. It just looked as if it might just draw, but you do get them. I mean, on average, you probably might get 1 in a dozen races. It's definitely a scenario that does occur on a regular basis when you've only got 2 spheres racing, and we're using the setup that we've got so far. But anyway, that pretty much brings us to the end of this tutorial, and it's been quite fun getting it to this stage. The next scenario that we're going to look at is adding a 3rd sphere and working out who's come first, second and third. So I'll see you in that tutorial very shortly.